Summer Stardust, 1972. Everyone can see Carly Simon and James Taylor in the sun. Today, however, the fantasy is shattered. At last, James Taylor reveals to everyone what was kept under wraps. A private nightmare, a combination of cosmetics, rage, and silence. There was no romance. Behind opulent doors, there were nights of fierce combat. Drugs were drowning him. She also had a strong desire to be in command. Peace was not their love. The grade was AB. The truth has been out, and it's far worse than anyone anticipated. It was a very aloof marriage behind closed doors. Resentment was growing, and there were clashes. Taylor, who is shy and melancholy, frequently caused problems for Carly, who is very independent and enjoys being in charge. He withdrew, both physically and emotionally. She had dramatic and occasionally destructive voice outbursts. The danger of addiction was never far away. Due to his lengthy history of using heroin and subsequently methadone, Taylor struggled to maintain his sobriety. Simon was candidly encouraging. However, he grew increasingly irate at his disappearances over time. His mood swings and his quiet. She needed to connect, and he needed to escape. The more she attempted to approach him, the more he retreated. Arguments were common. Carly was quick to speak and knew exactly what to say to do harm. When Taylor was upset, he could be cruel and savage. There are moments when their arguments hurt more than any music could express. Those who knew them well understood they were constantly tense, despite the media's portrayal of them as the dreamy soft rock duo. Living at home, according to friends, was like having to tread carefully. They were constantly fighting or madly in love with one another. Their songs began to convey their rage. The lyrics changed from being loving to becoming passive-aggressive. Until now, neither of the fans had voiced their thoughts. What many people had believed has been validated by Taylor's most recent thinking. They had extended periods of emotional isolation, mistrust, and instability during their marriage. Eric Clapton appeared just when you thought everything was over. He now claims that when Carly was at the top of her game, she was in one of the worst relationships of his life. Their relationship is hazardous and volatile, he claims. Carly continued to struggle with her childhood abandonment issues and her own inadequacies. She has the ability to change from being really attractive to furious. Clapton claims he was informed about her passionate nature, but chose not to pay attention. Then came a relationship that began with desire and ended with fear. Business is booming throughout the year, but it seems to slow down in the winter due to the sharp decline in the island's population. Carly reportedly demanded his undivided attention and became upset when he refused. Their time together was brief but intense, filled with heartbreaking lows and dramatic highs. Taylor and Clapton weren't the first things that made Carly feel horrible, but he now admits that it affected him emotionally and for a longer period of time than he had anticipated. It began long ago in the large, ominous Simon family mansion. Imagine a little child who is raised in luxury as the daughter of Richard L. Simon, who was a founding member of the publishing behemoth Simon & Schuster. The house was filled with intelligent people, music, and books. However, there were also secrets, rivalry, and coldness. Because her father's approval was always just out of reach and her brothers were more accomplished than she was, Carly felt inadequate. Her mother, Andrea, was attractive and well-liked, but she wasn't always there for her children emotionally. In a household full of rough boys, Carly was the oddball, the outcast, and the overly sensitive child. These childhood traumas followed her into adulthood, impacting her relationships and making it more difficult for her to have faith in others. She had trouble getting along with her brothers. She and her sister Lucy, who is also a musician, found it difficult to cope with similarities and celebrity. When she was with her brother, photographer Peter Simon, things were better. However, Carly frequently felt emotionally out of place. On the exterior, the Simon family appeared to be ideal, but on the inside, there was a lot of conflict. Carly's personal life became increasingly turbulent as her music career took off thanks to hits like You're So Vain and Nobody Does It Better. Her concerns were exacerbated by fame. She was increasingly suspicious, believing that she was being used or that she was being discussed behind her back. According to insiders, her behavior might be anywhere. She used to be attractive and endearing. She was either angry or aloof the next moment. She and the directors got into a quarrel, fans or other artists. At one point, she would suddenly get stage fright and stop performing for months. Some claimed it was a breakdown. It was described as a diva tantrum by some. Later, Carly revealed that she had been struggling with depression and bipolar disorder. But in those days, nobody saw the suffering underneath the ups and downs. She was viewed by many as an inspiration for women's empowerment. However, others in the industry refer to her as challenging, controlling, and unpredictable behind closed doors. Generally speaking, collaborations didn't work out. An unsuccessful studio session with a well-known producer ended when Carly slammed the door, sobbed in the parking lot, and refused to return. Her feelings were constantly shifting. They were occasionally intelligent and helpful, and other times they were afraid and depressed. People were aware of Carly's episodes of terror. Before major performances, she would shut herself in the changing rooms. She was trembling and weeping. She had been moving for hours, according to her helpers, and was unable to go on stage. Her confidence was destroyed by her deep-seated dread of being judged, failing, and embarrassed. Her erratic nature caused friendships to fall apart. In the midst of the tour, one of her closest friends and backing vocalists canceled, claiming that Carly had wrongly accused her of abandoning her. Others claimed that her rapid mood swings, jealousy, and incessant need for reassurance were mentally taxing them. She was stuck in the box that fame had put her in. The reports may be familiar to you. One of the most well-known hate songs in music history is "You're So Vain." People believed it was about Warren Beatty for a very long time. The complete picture of Carly's interactions with Beatty and MC Jagger is beginning to take shape now that new information has surfaced and Clapton has spoken up. It's also not very attractive. Warren Beatty was never simply laid back, no matter what. His charm, confidence, and Hollywood good looks made Carly fall in love. However, Beatty, who had a reputation for cheating on his spouses, kept her at a distance. Their lack of harmony was as obvious as their chemistry. Beatty allegedly failed to provide Carly with the love and solitude she desired. They would go out on fancy nights together, but afterwards, at private parties or behind the scenes, they would argue. One night, she allegedly saw him flirting with another actress and walked out of a hotel room sobbing and barefoot. The humiliation was excruciating. She later confided in close friends that she felt used and unimportant as a result of the romance. Beatty went on fast. For many years, Carly didn't. Both her songs and her subsequent relationships reflected the hurt she felt from that relationship. Then Mick Jagger appeared. There was a lot of sexual tension in their taut, Electric Link. Jagger performed backup on "You're So Vainful," making it difficult to determine whether she was only a friend, a partner, or something more. His charm and swagger drew Carly in right away. However, their relationship soon got strained. Carly craved depth and commitment. Therefore, she found it difficult to deal with Jagger's flirtatious behavior and mood swings. He allegedly mistreated her during a recording session, which led to a yelling altercation in a London studio. He was acting like a shell, according to Carly. Jagger responded by mocking her emotional responses. Because they didn't respect one another and had harmed each other's feelings, their creative partnership collapsed and any love flames swiftly faded. Both Jagger and Beatty left Carly without suffering any professional setbacks. Carly, on the other hand, had her heart shattered, her fury was still raw, and she became known as a heartbroken and erratic woman. Her songs were filled with all of the betrayals, slights, and unhealed scars. However, despite the success of her songs on the charts, unresolved grief continued to destroy her personal life. In the early 2000s, Carly Simon stood alone on a small stage. The noise level has decreased. It is becoming lighter. Things are now different. She has as well. There were disputes, arguments, and strained bonds. She was unharmed by them. They made their mark, but they didn't completely alter it. The fact that her voice is weaker than it once was more significant. It cuts deeper, yet it rattles. The scars, the struggle, and the agony are all audible. Carly wrote more for herself and less for the charts over time. She wrote notes to herself through her songs. They were filled with recollections of the people who had wronged her, grief, and requests for forgiveness. She was never truly gone. She seized control of her story, penned autobiographies, and sang old songs once again. She made no effort to conceal her mental health issues. They were incorporated into her narrative. By Simon Carly. In the past, reporters talked about the woman in recording studios, and people were scared of her. She now represents clumsy, ingenious survival. Now that James Taylor and even Clapton have spoken out, the picture of Carly is becoming more apparent. Not only a diva who lost her way, a challenging lady, or a wounded lover. Fragile, fierce, shattered, and brilliant, she was a whole person. Her legacy is incomprehensible. That might be the idea. She was never cautious, never attempted to be someone she wasn't, and never followed the rules. It cost her money. However, she also created a place where chaos and creativity, beauty and pain could coexist, and no one else could. There was more to this story than a marriage or a few dubious extramarital encounters. One woman battled for a long time to be authentic. Despite constant attempts by those around her to silence her, she was able to.